Welcome to Red Kingdom Sports, and we are here to discuss NFL Week 15. Now, I'm not going to touch on every single one of these games because some of these games just don't matter and they're a waste of time to even discuss. But there's some games that I want to touch up on, maybe make a few points about and talk about them because I think it would be fun. Because some of these games, even if they were bad, like the Bengals and Broncos game, obviously the Texans, Jaguars, nobody cares about those two teams. Nobody cares to talk about those teams. But I wanted to discuss at least a few of these games. One of the games that I wanted to discuss was the Steelers and the Titans. The Steelers won 19-13. This game was pretty sloppy. I'm not gonna lie. It really wasn't that good of a football game. Now, as a Chiefs fan, I'm pretty sure I watched way too much of this game and invested way too much of my time and energy into this game because of what was going on. I really wanted the Steelers to win, and they pulled off the victory. But that was one of the worst performances I had seen. Like, you had the Sunday Night Football game, which is really bad. There was no touchdowns, but at least that one felt fairly clean, at least when it came to turnovers and just the way the game was being played. This game was sloppy, disgusting, and not something that this game felt like torture to watch. And I know we do this to ourselves because we're football fans, but this game was torture, man. It was torture. Like I said, I'm glad the Steelers won, but this game was awful. I mean, TJ Watt had a masterful game. I think he could win Defensive Player of the Year. He has 17.5 sacks. I mean, there's a chance he could set the single season sack record for how well he is playing. But as a whole, that Steelers defense was completely garbage. It wasn't good. Now, it did come up clutch with 4 turnovers. Like, you can't take that away from a team. A lot of those were the doing of the Titans. Like, I feel like some of those turnovers the Titans definitely could have avoided. But the defense of the Steelers, man, if the Titans weren't shooting themselves in the foot the entire game, I genuinely feel like the Titans could have won that game. But the 4 turnovers that they had were just awful. It didn't help the Titans whatsoever. It didn't help them in their playoff push because the Titans dominated everything in this game. Yards, rushing yards, time of possessions. But when you have 3 turnovers in 10 plays, and you dominate everything, and you're only holding the Steelers to field goals. The only touchdown that the Steelers had, I think, in this entire game, unless I'm mistaken, was a Big Ben rushing touchdown, which looked just sad. It was really bad. Like the Titans, man, everything pointed for the Titans to win this game, and the fact they didn't is just terrible. But the Titans defense, I think, is very good. I think the Titans defense is the only thing giving the Titans life right now. Because at this rate, the Titans may lose their division because the Colts are a very dangerous team right now. I mean, the Colts are kind of limited because of their quarterback, but I think the Titans are limited by their quarterback too because I know that they have all these injuries, and I do give them a bit of a pass. I will, but you've had these injuries for weeks now, and the fact that people on Twitter are still using this as an excuse, like, I get it. They're down there. One of, if not the best player in the NFL. I understand that. But at some point, you've got to adapt to the guys that you have there. And if you're going to be a contending playoff team, especially with a very solid defense like the Titans have, they really have got to do something. Because this game defensively with the Titans was great. The Titans offense was able to run the ball fairly well. The Steelers run defense was terrible in this game. They've been terrible for a while. They got completely burned by the Vikings as well earlier this year. But I think at times the Titans were just shooting themselves in the foot, the turnovers, fumbling the ball away, giving the Steelers a chance to stay in this game. And the Steelers weren't doing anything offensively either. I hate the Steelers offense with a passion. It is literal torture to watch. It's so painful. And I'm not saying this to be an a-hole or anything. I genuinely think Najee Harris is one of the worst running backs in the NFL right now. Like, I really do. There was so many plays in this game where if he would have just went forward, gained 4 or 5 easy yards right in front of him instead of trying to make a play, I think this game would have been a little bit different. But Najee Harris kept running backwards, putting the team in a bad spot. But that's also on the Steelers offense because their offense isn't very good either. They feel like they run just a handful of plays. They flip the side of the field they're running it. It's like a sideline fade, a slant, a run with Harris, or a check down of some kind. Like, the Steelers offense is just unbelievably hard to watch. It is atrocious. It is terrible. But somehow the Steelers are still able to be a 500 football team, even with all the games that they have lost, how badly they've been playing. I guess that's great for Mike Tomlin, but like the culture at the Steelers doesn't seem good. The players aren't really buying in, it feels like right now. Big Ben just looks like he would rather be at a million different places than being on the football field with some of these guys. I mean, I guess a good thing that happened for the Steelers is Chase Claypool didn't do anything stupid. But man, this Steelers team is completely unbearably hard to watch. And I don't know how some of these fans deal with these Steelers. I really don't. Like, this is one of the roughest teams to watch every single week. And as a Chiefs fan, I'm very happy to play them because their run defense is absolutely terrible. I feel like if the Titans had a competent quarterback, they could have thrown the ball on the Steelers too. The Steelers team just stinks, man. And somehow they're going to make the playoffs. They even may somehow make the playoffs and then beat somebody in the playoffs. And we're just going to be even more confused about this season because of how stupid it's been. But this game was just dumb, weird, and somehow the Steelers pulled off the victory 19-13. I guess another game we could talk about real quickly is the Bills defeating the Panthers 31-14. The Bills actually ran the ball quite a few times. They ran it 22 times, which is just something they haven't done all year long, which I don't know why, because Devin Singletary has definitely shown that he's a great running back when they give him the ball. He even had a rushing TD. Like, they look really good. I mean, the Bills on offense, they look very slow to start this game. Like, they really do. And even when they do score, it's weird. There's certain teams that score 31 points, like the Packers, and they makes it look like they're a great team. But when the Bills score 31 points, every 31 point game just feels so much different in the NFL. It really does, because you look at the way the Packers are able to get 31 points. It's efficient drives. They're holding the ball for a while, and then Aaron Rodgers makes a great throw inside the 20 after 5, 6, 7, 8 minute drive. Like, I think that's why the 31 point games feel different, and that's why you can feel like a team plays bad, because the Bills were not good at parts in this game at all. I don't think they were very good at parts in this game. But Josh Allen made some great throws late in that game. I mean, Josh Allen hasn't looked good for most of the season. Like, there's just something wrong. Like, because we thought the Bills losing to the Steelers week 1 was a fluke, and I'm going to keep harping on that. I thought it was a fluke early on. I don't think it's much of a fluke anymore. But man, this Bills team, they have definitely got, their offense has got to get starting a little bit quicker. I really think they do. Because they still have New England, Atlanta, and New York left. And I think they can probably, I don't know about win all 3 of those games, but the way that New England has been playing, they played against the Colts. I think the New England Patriots are vulnerable. The Falcons stink and the Jets stink. So, I mean, the Bills could win out. I think they'd finish 11-6. So I think that's completely viable for the Bills to make the playoffs. But as a dangerous team in the playoffs, I just don't see it. I don't. The slow starts, Josh Allen struggling at times, them refusing to run the football. There's just something about the Bills. I'm not buying into the Bills. Will they make the playoffs? Probably. But do I buy in? Not even a little bit. And the Panthers as a team, I guess since we're talking about the game, the Panthers are bad, just a bad football team. I don't think Cam Newton's very good. I mean, he has ran the ball for a rushing touchdown, I think, in every game that he's came back. He had a great throw to DJ Moore for a 2-point conversion. But I mean, other than that, the Panthers were without a kicker in this game. So they were desperate. They were having to go for it on 4th down. They were having to go for 2 every time. So there's nothing good about the Panthers right now. The Panthers are a bad football team. The Panthers are a quarterback away from being a really good football team. They really are. Cam Newton's not the answer. PJ Walker's not the answer. Sam Darnold's not the answer. They are a quarterback away from being a really good team in the NFL, and they can't figure out the quarterback position. That's so weird. They are literally a quarterback away from being a very good football team, and they need to, because there's just something about all those players on the Panthers, man. They're a good, and it may even be Matt Rule. Matt Rule's a terrible head coach. He really is. But I think they're just a quarterback away. They really are. The Texans defeated the Jaguars 30-16 in this game. There's really not much from it. The fact that the Texans, Davis Mills, I thought looked very good. He might actually be the future of the Texans. The NFL is so weird this year. You don't know if actually this has been a good year for Davis Mills, but he's been very solid when he's been in there. Him and Brandon Cooks had a great connection during this game. Jacksonville now owns the number 1 overall pick due to the loss in this game. Urban Meyer obviously is no longer the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, I mean, the Jags finally did use James Robinson. But, I mean, even with Urban gone and them finally using him, I think the Jaguars are just officially we know they're a bad team. But they just have a lot of things they're going to have to change to be good. I mean, it's the same for the Texans. I mean, they're both really bad football teams. But there's a lot of things both of these teams are going to have to change in the future. The Cowboys defeated the Giants 21-6. Right now, because of the win, the Cowboys are the number 2 seed in the NFC. as of right now. We still have a whole bunch of games left this weekend. I think there's still 4 games left as of me recording this. It's just it's this NFL week is long and crazy. Some of these videos that I'm going to make are going to be really delayed. It's really going to stink. But Trayvon Diggs, I mean, that defense as a whole for the Cowboys, that thing is that's a force, man. That defense of the Cowboys, I think, is a force to be reckoned with. It's unbelievably good. From last year to this year, it's like night and day. Like, they're a great defensive core. Trayvon Diggs is good. DeMarcus Lawrence is good. Micah Parsons. I'm probably missing a couple guys. Like, I think their worst player is probably Anthony Brown on their defense. But they had a really good game defense-wise. I mean, the Cowboys' offense, I still don't like it. I mean, I think Tony Pollard's better than Zeke. Dak hasn't looked good. They're struggling to score a whole bunch of points, which is a team like this, we expect a lot of points from a guy who's getting paid $75 million. And arguably, he has the best receiving core in the NFL right now. It's just, you'd expect a little bit more from the Cowboys in this game. I mean, we don't expect much from the Giants because Mike Glennon stinks. I think they had to play Jake Fromm. I don't know. I kind of tuned out of this game late in this game. I don't know. This game was just bad all around. I mean, the Giants failed a 4th and 1 QB sneak. Like, that should just tell you how bad they are. But for the Cowboys, man, I think Tony Pollard is better than Zeke. They need to use Tony Pollard more. He gives them a little bit more of a spark than Zeke does. But then you also have Mike McCarthy, who seems to loves to hold back the Cowboys because his clock management at the end of that game was absolutely atrocious. It was terrible. He could have had one more shot in the end zone if he would have taken a timeout. But he didn't do it. Instead, they had to settle for 3 points. So, I mean, the Cowboys are being held back by their offense underperforming, and then their head coach just making boneheaded decisions. The next game we have is the Lions defeating the Cardinals. Can't believe that actually happened this week. The Lions won 30-12. I mean, you got to give credit to the Lions here. They fight hard for Dan Campbell. I watched his post-game stuff in the locker room. Like, I feel like I would run through a brick wall for that guy. Like, he's just an insanely nice guy, easy to root for kind of guy. I mean, people think he's a cringe coach, but man, that guy will lead his team, and they will go to battle for him. Jared Goff looked absolutely amazing in this game, which is weird to say, but I mean, Jared Goff and the Lions, I mean, I don't think they're going to be anything in the future. It's the Lions, but I think they may have found something finally there, to maybe get a few wins, get 7, 8, 9 wins every year. I mean, they have St. Brown, who's a great receiver for the Lions. And then I still thoroughly believe that the Lions only exist to ruin other teams' seasons because, I mean, they're not a good football team, but they've now beaten the Vikings and they've now beaten the Cardinals, and that put the Cardinals in a terrible spot because now the Cardinals might be considered a fraudulent team now that they've lost 2 in a row. They've dropped to 4th in the standings. You have the Rams, who, if they get hot and the Cardinals continue to play like garbage, it may be tough sledding for the Cardinals, and they may lose their division. They both have tough games remaining. I think they both definitely still play the Colts right now, as of right now. So that's going to be a tough game for both of them. The way the Cardinals have been playing, I don't trust them to beat the Colts. The Rams, I do trust to beat the Colts. So it's just it was a weird game for the Cardinals. They looked terrible on all fronts. Their defense got eaten alive by the Lions' run game. Craig Reynolds was running his tail off on this game for the Lions. But it just felt like the Cardinals didn't even watch film in this game, and they forgot that the Lions are one of the toughest teams in the NFL, a team that nobody wants to face right now if their season's on the line, because the Lions have nothing to fight for, and all these teams that have something to fight for late in the season having to play the Lions, it is not a team that anybody wants to play. But the Lions, it's just not a team that anybody wants to play. Because, I mean, the Lions play the Packers at the end of the season. I mean, the rest of the schedule for the Lions, they play the Falcons, Seahawks, the Packers. I mean, the only team there that's going to make the playoffs is the Packers. But still, if somehow it comes down to Week 17, the Lions play their tails off and they ruin something for the Packers, I mean, anything is possible in this NFL season. But the Lions are a tough football team. They fight hard for Dan Campbell. And the Cardinals, they did not come prepared for that game at all. Cliff Kingsbury is making some boneheaded decisions this year. He made some last week, and then instead of kicking the field goal, I think it was late at some point in the game, he kicked a field goal or went for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal, which is just not good. The Dolphins defeated the Jets 31-24. The only things that I really have from this game is the Dolphins are on a 6-game winning streak. They started 1-7, now 7-7. They do have a tough schedule ahead of them, but I think they're playing fairly well. Tua was making some great throws. He also made some bad throws, throwing a pick six, which really stinks. Duke Johnson had a great game, over 100 yards rushing. Dominic Wilkins had a big man touchdown with a great warm celebration afterwards. The Jets as a whole, I think they fought. They played well in this game. Their defense definitely tried to keep them in that game. I think both of these teams played a fairly solid game, and the Dolphins were able to come up on top 31-24. The next, we have the Bengals-Broncos. Really nothing much from this game except for Teddy Bridgewater's scary injury, man. That was really scary. Obviously, we all hope that he's okay. That was just scary. I heard that he's doing all right now, but that was an awful injury to watch. There were some terrible injuries this week. That is not something you ever want to see. But, just as a whole, the Bengals won 15-10. This game really wasn't very interesting. Red Zone didn't show much of this game at all because it was an absolute punt fest. The Bengals now lead their division, so I guess that's a good thing for the Bengals. The next game we have is the 49ers-Falcons. The 49ers won 31-13. The only things I really have from this game is the Falcons are just a terrible football team. They're solid against bad teams, but when they play an actual good team, they just stink. But, the 49ers, they have Debo, who's playing great. They had Jeff Wilson, had himself a great running day, 110 rushing yards. And then the 49ers will probably make the playoffs. They play the Titans, Texans, and Rams. Those games are definitely all winnable for the 49ers. They beat the Rams earlier this year. The Texans stink. And then you have the Titans, who are really struggling right now. It just feels like the Titans, just as a whole, since all those injuries came back, they haven't been a very good football team. But there was a lot of hate for Jimmy G earlier this season, which I do not understand. Like, he runs the Kyle Shanahan offense very well. He was very solid in this game. So the hate that Jimmy G gets just makes no sense to me, because I think Jimmy G he's between good and great. And I think whatever is between good and great is what Jimmy Garoppolo is. Because he's definitely good. He's not great, but I think he's a little bit better than good, because I think Jimmy G makes some great plays, great throws. And he just wins. Like, that's the thing. Like, people think he stinks, but without Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan has a terrible record as a head coach. The final game that I have here that I will discuss is the Ravens and the Packers game. The Packers won 31-30. Now, this game was actually quite a bit of fun. It really, really was. And this is what I'm talking about as a 31-point game being different for the Packers and a 31-point game being for the Bills, because I think the Packers and Aaron Rodgers just had an absolutely great game. I really did. He was making and it wasn't even a great game. Like, he missed two throws, and I know the way that people is those two throws that he missed, those are going to be the two throws that people talk about and be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers was bad in this game. No, Aaron Rodgers was very solid in this game. MVS definitely stepped up. Obviously you have Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones was good in this game. AJ Dillon made his presence felt. Like, this game just as a whole, Mercedes Lewis was great in this game. Like, the Packers offense was really good in this game, and I hope people don't define the Packers in this game offensively based off of two plays that Aaron Rodgers missed, because as a whole, I think the offense for the Packers is great. Aaron Rodgers is trying to make a case for being an MVP favorite. He's had literally one bad game the entire season, and he looked great in this game against the Ravens. But the Ravens in this game, they fought hard. Tyler Huntley was unbelievably good in this game. Like, he has stepped up huge. And so did Mark Andrews. Those two guys, had unbelievably good games. Tyler Huntley was making big-time throws. Mark Andrews was making, obviously, those big-time catches. The Ravens, I know they're missing Lamar, but, people are saying Lamar wins that game. I don't think Lamar wins that game. Lamar has had a really bad season. He really has. Lamar has not looked right at all this season. And I personally don't think that Lamar wins this game. I really don't. Huntley at the end did the same thing that the Ravens did earlier on in the season. When the Ravens played the Steelers, they failed on a 2-point conversion, which they probably should have kicked the extra point. And I still think they should have kicked the extra point. Now, the Steelers game, I think, was different. But you can't do that. You can't lose a game twice like that. And when the possibility is there to lose a game twice, you can't do that. But Huntley, he was making plays. He got them in that position. I think they scored 2 touchdowns in the last, 7-8 minutes of that game, something like that. They looked good at the end of that game to even cut it to a 1-point game. But they failed on a 2-point conversion again. But because of this loss, the Ravens are now losing. They lost the division lead. and are currently not in a playoff spot because of that. But I think the Ravens will probably make the playoffs. It just depends on how well they play down the stretch, because they still have Cincinnati, the Rams, and Pittsburgh. That's not an easy road of a schedule. It is not whatsoever an easy road. Cincinnati's going to be tough. The Rams are going to be tough. And I think Pittsburgh, for as bad as they have been, that's going to be a tough game because it's an in-division game. So this season is it. The Broncos, or not the Broncos. Why did I say the Broncos? The Ravens might actually miss the playoffs, which might be hard to believe for some people, but I really think that at some point the Ravens really have got to step up these next 3 games if they want a chance to make the playoffs. And just another quick note from this game, and this was a bad day for analytics people, and I understand analytics to a certain point, like, oh, go for it here, go for it there. But when you've lost a game already this season on the same exact scenario, going for 2 to tie the game, you can't lose a game twice in the same year like that. Like, I just felt this is why I hate analytics. Like, yeah, I'm fine with going for it on 4th down. I think that's actually a smart, aggressive move. There's times when I think going for the touchdown instead of kicking the field goal are a great opportunity, great point to do, or a great position to do something. But come on, like, you've done this once already. And the defense just held the Packers to a 3-and-out right before that. But before you were able to score the touchdown. So I don't understand why people and analytics people are just like, oh, that was a great decision. I think that was a stupid decision. I thought that was boneheaded. The first one against the Steelers, yes, I like that one because they literally had nobody on defense that were able to play in that overtime, so they probably would have lost. But this one, their defense made a couple stops in this game, stepped up, and they were able to put them in a position to win this game. And so I think kick the extra point, send this game into overtime. I don't know why they didn't. I may be the only one that feels like they shouldn't have went for the 2-point conversion there. They should have just kicked it. They really should have. Huntley was playing great. Their defense just had to make one stop. Even holding them to a field goal was going to be good. So I don't know why they went for it. I thought it was a bad decision. But that is my recap for NFL Week 15. Give me your thoughts down below of what you thought of this week, and I will see you in the next one.